You're listening to Forward Faster, bite-sized insights for entrepreneurs.
Hi, everyone. I'm Holly Barrett, Marketing Director of NextCorps, and with me today is Marnie Lavigne, the co-founder, president, and CEO of Launch New York. For our listeners who don't know about Launch New York, it's a nonprofit venture development organization that serves 27 westernmost counties in upstate New York. Welcome, Marnie. Thanks for coming and joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Holly.
Can you provide a little overview of Launch New York so everyone can get some grounding before we dig into some of the other specialties that you have?
Absolutely. I think we're all familiar that we've seen a history in upstate New York of big companies and great job supporting organizations going by the wayside and really having to think about what our future is as a local economy. And so it turns out that the greatest generator of new jobs going forward really are startup businesses with high growth potential, typically fewer than 5 years old. And, the real question was, how does our region support them? So this model of venture development organization provides two key pieces for helping new startups with high growth potential. One, pro bono mentoring. So free services with great mentors who can help get you on that road to startup success. And then the key piece comes hand in hand, which is availability of seed capital. So our mission at Launch New York is a 501c3 nonprofit, is to identify, support, and fund high growth potential businesses while growing the overall entrepreneurial ecosystem.
How much do you invest in startups per year, or does it differ every year?
It does differ every year. So we started our seed fund in 2016. We're actually 10 years old, did 4 years of mentorship only. We built the funds. We now have invested almost $10 million. We do have the most active seed fund in the state, one of the most active in the country. And what that really means for our companies is that we have frequent funding. So we're funding companies anywhere from 2 to 4 times each month. I will call them small but mighty dollars. So our initial funding generally in the 5-figure range, tens of thousands of dollars, which for many of these companies is just their first taste of what we'll call institutional dollars. Maybe you got friends and family money, but the reality is we've seen anywhere from a 20 to 30 times our dollars coming in with co-investment and follow-on from others. So when we look at that, that means our companies have been able to generate not only revenues, but really over $100 million in additional fundraising beyond Launch New York.
That's impressive. And I know how important that initial money is to just getting them out the door to start their scaling process. As a part of the seed fund, you have a very robust and growing investor network, correct? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we followed the model of other venture development organizations with a nonprofit fund, which is fed by grants and donations. And that's still really important because that's what started this most active seed fund in the state. But we found that other investors wanted to hop in and they said, gee, this is exciting. I want to support companies and entrepreneurs in my backyard, but how do I do that? And, what if I would like to pick my own companies? So we actually started 2 for-profit financing programs. One's a limited partner fund where commit the money and then Launch makes those investments. So that's been operating since 2019. Then we found, some people really like to pick their deal. So our investor network, we got up and running and we closed our first deal in a company in 2020. That's very unique in the sense that it's essentially a virtual group of accredited investors who can find anything they need to know about the company online. And the investor network now hosts nearly 240 accredited investors. Yes, a lot of them are in upstate New York, but many of them are anywhere in the world at this point. But they have a love of startups and they have a love of supporting them in the local economy. So what we do is we actually share the due diligence that Launch New York has conducted on behalf of our own investment, and we share that with the investors so they can take a look and make their own decisions about putting as little as typically $10,000. We've had a special, if you will, this summer where we decreased it to as little as $5,000 per investor per company. And so that has invested about $1.3 million in about 13 companies already. And what it does is it augments our initial investment at Launch New York, plus the LP fund investment, and it now layers on a whole other host of investors who have exposure and now an interest in these deals. And frankly, it isn't just the capital. The saying, time, talent, and treasure, it's really true that they're all equally important. So many of those investors are actually bringing their own contacts, maybe access to talent, people who want to join the company, make referrals to new customers, anything you can imagine that a company needs. A lot of these investors are bringing that to the table alongside their cash.
That's terrific. I mean, it really is about growing the ecosystem. It is so interesting that if the minimum investment is lowered, it kind of levels the playing field or de-risks it a little bit in terms of, oh, this is interesting. I want to be involved. If there are other investors, you said that there's already 240 in this network. How can potential investors get involved with Launch New York if they're interested?
We make it easy for both entrepreneurs and investors to get involved. And even before the pandemic, we really made it come to our website, launchy.org, and there are sections for entrepreneurs and investors. Very easy to apply as an entrepreneur or to sign up to learn more as an investor. And now it's very easy to actually sign up fully for our network. We currently are not charging any membership fees. We also make this available to our companies as a way to raise additional dollars, meet additional investors. But for the investors, I like to call it investing locally made easy. The hashtag Invest Local platform that we have, Launch New York essentially shows you what the deals are, makes it possible for you to even meet the founders through a webinar Q&A session, which we record if you're not able to attend live. And we then do all the rest of the work. So we do all the legal documentation. We manage all the follow-on activities, the tax-associated documentation. Often people are familiar with what's called a K-1. That's a lot of what is holding people back. They don't necessarily have the knowledge on how to actually render a deal, how to make an investment, nor necessarily the inclination or the time. And so Launch New York makes that possible. And simply just getting started at our website really is the easiest way.
That does sound pretty easy. In terms of entrepreneurs that want to get involved with Launch New York and prepare to meet investors and be attractive, what are some of the tips that you can provide entrepreneurs to be ready for this type of investment? We
really suggest doing a lot of planning before you get started with your business. So most important is to make sure that your market really has a viable opportunity. We find that many founders are very excited about the idea that, has come into their heads, and they're coming to us saying, I just need X amount of dollars to fill in the blank. It could be anything from, I already built part of the product and I need to finish it, or I need a new version, or I need to hire sales and marketing, or, buy online ads. It could be almost anything. But what we really find is that investors want to hear that you have a very solid handle on what the market opportunity is. It's incredible and exciting that so much of what's happening in our region, these are brand new businesses, and you may not find any in the same town, for example. At the same time, you've got to go talk to your customer base, the users, as well as those who will be paying, because your investors are going to want to hear, how do you know there's a market for this? And to be honest, if they can get traction even before coming to Launch New York to show that you actually have some users, and of course, having paying customers probably is the most exciting way to get investors excited about what you're doing. But, we know that that's difficult. And that's what Launch New York is really here to help you do with our free mentorship. And we help position you for those conversations and those pitches to investors.
I think that that's what we always say to our entrepreneurs too. You have to document these things. You have to put it in your plan. You have to demonstrate that there is that viable opportunity in order to be attractive to investors. And without it, it's kind of like guessing game, puffery. So very important, very important. Just on a final note, what are you seeing in upstate New York in terms of deal flow and in terms of the environment for entrepreneurs lately?
Well, we've had some really exciting deals happen in upstate New York. We've actually had a couple initial public offerings, both for a Buffalo and a Syracuse company. And we, in fact, had another company that was just acquired by eBay. So we are seeing what is a little bit of the end of the rainbow, those exits that get investors very excited. At the same time, it leaves a lot of other people wondering, how do I get involved? So what Launch New York has tried to do is make sure we're the open door for all entrepreneurs. And in fact, we serve not only all industry sectors, and really every sector is popping. Obviously, tech is big, but we're seeing a lot of consumer products, especially in the food arena, for example. Clean tech is a big area for us. So we have specialty programs for underrepresented founders, many of whom are really pursuing consumer products, not all, but many. And then we also have a clean energy incubator that's supported by NYSERDA. So I would tell you that we're seeing all kinds of deals, and we're seeing all kinds of new entrepreneurs coming to the table. So we're really pleased with the fact that we're able to support over 40% of our portfolio companies are led by underrepresented founders. And in fact, from an economic development standpoint, which really is at the heart of our effort, over 75% of our portfolio companies are located in low-income neighborhoods. So you're seeing the entire community wake up to the possibility of entrepreneurship, particularly scalable businesses, is a viable pathway for them. And then likewise, you're seeing investors step up, and you're seeing the outside world support some of these deals where we've seen these initial public offerings, or we've seen major investors come in and bring tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in investment into our region, which really was not happening. I will say, Holly, in fact, one of the stats that frightened all of us is not all that long ago, upstate New York was only getting 3% of the venture capital that was invested in New York State annually, despite the fact that we actually have had almost 50% of the research and development innovation activity. So we all said, gee, if we're really going to replace the traditional industry and job opportunities in our area, we've got to figure this out. And I think the rest of the world has woken up to the fact that we have some pretty amazing entrepreneurial activity going on here.
We sure do. And the stats are there that we are poised to be that next tech hub. And it's just a matter of time. I think with efforts like Launch New York and NextCorps and others in terms of the support ecosystem that is here for entrepreneurs to just take flight, especially in that underserved communities and minorities, and leverage the support and get out there. If you have a good idea and you know that there's a customer need for it, there is support here. Thank you so much for being here today. And please don't make yourself a stranger. We love it when you're in our office and taking this opportunity to share your thoughts with everyone. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Holly.